Yep.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 53 of the All Dolphins podcast. This one in honor of Bob Matheson, who is way before your time, who was a linebacker for the Dolphins during the Super Bowl days, whose number actually was used to describe a defense, the 53 defense, which was what's what I'm looking for. Like, if I remember correctly, either one of the first ones or the first 3-4 alignment, going all the way back. Later became an assistant coach with the Dolphins before, unfortunately, passing away from.
Hold on. So there was a 3-4 alignment before Lawrence Taylor?
Yes.
Didn't know that.
How about that? And it came, I know it came, I can't recall exactly if it started with the Dolphins with the 53 with Bob Matheson or before that, but that's what it was. So,
I'm sure some historian will educate me, and please do in the comments or tweet me. I thought the 3-4 defense started with Bill Parcells and Nick Saban's invention of it for the utilization of Lawrence Taylor. If I'm incorrect, please educate me.
Oh, you're definitely incorrect. I just don't know exactly when it started, but the Dolphins used it. So hat tip to the memory of Bob Matheson, number 53. No big suspense who the next one will be when we do episode 54. So today was the final practice of training camp 2023. And Omar, condolences. I know you feel sad because this closes a chapter that you very much enjoy.
I love the evaluation process of football. This is why, I pride myself in the scouting ability and being able to diagnose what people's strengths and weaknesses are. So now they can tell us anything and we have to believe it because we generally can't see it. But I did formulate some opinions today. I think some of these battles have clear front runners. Whether it's Isaiah Wynn or Eli Apple or Deshaun Elliott, I don't think the competitions are close, but there are absolutely clear front runners. You'll see them in the starting role against Jacksonville. I said Brian Flores. Mike McDaniel is he basically said the intentions are to play guys that for the first quarter, maybe into the first half. And really just depends on how good they look or how efficient they are. So we'll see them.
But hold on, just to make sure that fans understand so they don't come back at us on Saturday if it doesn't work out that way. McDaniel gave himself an out. He said, as of right now, this is my thought process, that two on the starters will play more than a quarter, less than a half. But I'm going to talk to the coaches after practice on Thursday and then evaluate and see if we're going to stick to that plan. So if they don't play on Saturday, don't blame us. This is what he said. The one thing he did say definitely is Mike White is not playing. He is still in the concussion protocol. He could get cleared before the game Saturday, unless I'm severely mistaken on my steps. But McDaniel says he's not playing anyway. He did say James Blackman will get some reps. The rookie free agent from Florida State, who will be gone from the roster Tuesday.
Arkansas State.
Sorry, but he started at Florida State. Okay. Who will definitely be gone from the roster from the 53 on Tuesday, possibly re-signed to the practice squad. Who knows? Okay. Important. Okay. Important note here. Zach Sealer, who we talked about yesterday, did not practice. Mike McDaniel described his situation as something minor that had to deal, that was painful, but not serious. And Sealer kept getting treatment, but kept going back in. It was a matter of tolerating the pain and all that. But again, he said it's not serious. Day to day, didn't practice today. I would be very surprised, probably even disappointed if he played against Jacksonville.
It would be foolish for him to play against Jacksonville. Don't do it. Don't rip up your lottery ticket.
Okay. No argument there. Nothing else needs to be said there. Tyreek Hill, who did not
practice.
Wednesday wasn't back at practice today and was Tyreek Hill again, making a lot of catches. Had probably the one that jumped out to me the most. Maybe it was a really nice back shoulder throw from Tua, who had a few of those today. He threw the ball really well. And I think most of his impressive completions today came on back shoulder throws in red zone drills. At times when there was good coverage, there was the play that Tyreek Hill made, for example, came against Xavier Howard, who was pretty tight on him. And that was a great play, great throw by Tua.
His ball placement is elite. and love those passes that he throws. He can make every NFL throw? No, but his ball placement is elite. I love the back shoulder throws. I love the red zone work. That's my favorite period for Tua. Red zone money time.
Oh, I would agree that because it kind of plays to his strengths more than perhaps some other drills. And then the last play of practice was another red zone drill, a short touchdown pass to Cedric Wilson.
That wasn't the last play of practice. No disrespect.
Well, no, it was the last 11 on 11, but there was something
Okay.
at the end. You want to go ahead and
No. Tell him the last. I don't want to disrespect Cedric Wilson and his score. So go ahead. Tell him what happened in the last 11 on 11.
So while they were done, they sounded the horn 3 times. It usually signifies the end of practice, except this time, after all the players gathered in the middle of the field, they all spread out in a group to watch like a yard line. James Blackman was a quarterback, and they ran one-on-one 4 times. The first one was Eric Ezukama against Cam Smith. He went deep, caught a long pass from James Blackman. Offense goes nuts. I didn't see the reaction of the defense. I'm going to guess their shoulders on their boo. Then it was rookie safety Keydron Smith, who's looked very good in camp, by the way, covering Elijah Higgins. That one was incomplete. Defense goes nuts. Third one was Aubrey Miller Jr. covering Chris Brooks, who I've loved all training camp, although I'll be honest with you, that particular route didn't floor me. No. Incomplete pass. And then the last
Aubrey
one.
Miller was blanketing him like he was his blankie. Yeah, pretty good coverage. I think Aubrey Miller has a good chance of making a 53.
Oh, interesting. And then the last one, cool twist. This one, Kader Kohu, cornerback Kader Kohu, actually lined up at wide receiver against Dawood Davis, usually wide receiver, now playing cornerback. And Kohu just went straight down on a go route. Davis had pretty good coverage. It could have been a completion. It would have been perfect. Overthrown. Defense goes nuts. Oh, no, actually, this time the offense goes nuts because they're playing defense.
And they celebrated as if they had won, just because Dawood Davis blanketed Kader Kohu, and it was a blanket, and quite impressive in terms of coverage ability. Fun little drill to sort of ramp up the competitiveness, and you could only participate if you were a rookie or a first year player. I thought I loved it.
It was fun.
And
it was fun.
It was fun, but it showed. I liked it. It was Ukama versus Cam Smith. I mean, we haven't seen Cam Smith get beaten deep very often, and that was one of the 2 times he's been beaten deep.
Correct, but again, it's one-on-one. You're covering half the field. I don't know if they knew beforehand they were going to go deep. Then he needed to keep up, because I don't think Ezukama is not necessarily a burner. But again, if you're covering half,
Ezukama's got speed. Ezukama's got speed. Don't do that to Ezukama.
How about he's the slowest wide receiver among those who are likely to make the team?
Fine, that's fair.
Okay,
but
I mean, he's got more speed than you and I. But for an NFL,
that doesn't mean he doesn't run a 4.4. He runs a 4.4.
Oh, does he? But does he though?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay. Anyway, while you look it up, let me take care of some more bookkeeping stuff. The return of the orange jersey today.
Housekeeping stuff.
Return of the orange jersey.
Oh, you're right. 4.55.
Okay, thank you. That's not fast for an NFL wide receiver. Return of the orange jersey for the first time.
You're correct.
First joint practice against Atlanta, which was August 8th, and this time it was Raekwon Davis who had it, who also had a good play in practice as well. Outside of that, kind of the same usual cast of characters missing practice, along with Jeff Wilson Jr., who we never saw. No Teron Armstead, obviously. No Jalen Ramsey, obviously. No Jalen Waddle.
Jeff Wilson Jr. Oh,
did not see
Dolphins might be trading for a running back. A running back doesn't work.
Is this now the portion of the show where we should get to a Jonathan Taylor update, or?
Probably we should get to a Jonathan Taylor update. We should address it. We are reporting on alldolphins.com that the Dolphins are one of 2 teams that have submitted offers and have a framework of a proposed deal to Jonathan Taylor. The question is Miami the best deal on the table in both regards? Contract to Jonathan Taylor and offer to the Indianapolis Colts. Supposedly, according to ESPN, Stephen Holder, which, I love Stephen. I've known Stephen since we grew up in high school together. He went to American. I went to Carroll City. It's good dude, good reporter. They've given the Malky and his camp, which is Jonathan Taylor's agent, a Tuesday deadline. I think that's a Tuesday soft deadline just because teams have to produce their 53-man roster. Oh, well, if it happens Wednesday or Thursday, you're going to say, nope, not making a deal, not happening. But the question is, are the Dolphins the only bidder? In my educated guess position, I would have to put the Denver Broncos in there as a team that could potentially be interested in trading for Jonathan Taylor. And I'd have to put the Chicago Bears in there. And then there is some speculation, and it has not been confirmed, but the Philadelphia Eagles could be in play. I looked at the Eagles situation. They certainly have a need at the position at running back, even though they traded for Swift. And they've also got cap space not only this year, but next year. So it could be a situation where the rich gets richer. Now, the problem is, do you want to take a second-round pick from the Philadelphia Eagles, or do you want to take a second-round pick from the Miami Dolphins? I would personally want to take a second-round pick from the Miami Dolphins. Maybe the Philadelphia Eagles have to offer a first-round pick, which would be 30 to 32, based on what they look like as a team last year and how you project them, considering they've made drastic improvements to the roster. So if the Philadelphia Eagles put a first-round pick on the table, you're probably going to be the loser. But I do think Miami has a really legit chance. I put it at 50-50, whether or not they land Jonathan Taylor, because we all know Steve Ross likes these types of signings, and he's not afraid to give a guy the biggest contract in the NFL at his position.
Here's the thing, too, with the Dolphins. I would suspect if it winds up being the Dolphins, and yes, it's in play, that we could be looking at something like maybe a 2-end running back, Jeff Wilson Jr., the aforementioned Wilson Jr., because the Colts are going to need a running back. Then the Dolphins will have a surplus of running backs if they make that trade. So certainly they'll put Jeff Wilson out.
I wouldn't stop short there. I do believe that the Colts could have a level of interest in Emmanuel Ogbah if the Dolphins handled some of that contract for them, say giving them $5-6 million, just like they did with Ryan Tannehill when they unloaded Ryan Tannehill to the Tennessee Titans. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibilities in terms of something that Steve Ross would accept. And moving Ogbah would be important from this standpoint. What do you call it? The capopolis?
Apocalypse.
I call it the cap apocalypse. You call it the capolypse. What's
Apocalypse?
The I can't say.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to say.
And that's reference to the 2024 season when the Dolphins' salaries become drastically bloated. They're $32 million over the cap with 6 starters as unrestricted free agents, including Christian Wilkins. Now they have $13 million that they can carry over next year. Or they could use that on deals for Christian Wilkins or Robert Hunt or Zach Sealer or Jonathan Taylor. But that doesn't relieve some of the pressure. What does relieve some of the pressure is getting rid of Emmanuel Ogbah's $15 million cap hit this year. And that would release a lot of financial pressure. And he's not necessarily a player that I expect to be a major player on this team, even though he's the highest paid player on the team. Now, what would probably stand in the way for Indianapolis Colts is he's been injured for the last year. We don't really know. Maybe if you put him as an end and put him a hand in the ground and put him in the exhibition game against Jacksonville with his hand in the ground, I'll let him showcase what he's got the capabilities of doing. Maybe it intrigues them, but we shall see how this all plays out.
Something else you had in your story on alldolphins.com, which I also got from a source, as the Dolphins, yes, indeed, reached out to the Las Vegas Raiders to see about a potential trade for Jason Jacobs, and basically the Raiders were adamant of like not trading him. But the phone call was made, and again, certainly part of it is due diligence from Chris Greer. But when you were talking about an offer being made to Jonathan Taylor, that goes beyond due diligence.
Yeah. Listen, in these situations, and I call Chris Greer the trade whore because he needs to have those conversations
in the nicest way possible.
I mean, and that's his job. He's doing his due diligence. I think Marcel put it Marcel from ESPN put it in the context of, okay, in this era of fantasy football players, if you know a player is on the market for a rival fantasy team, aren't you going to call and see what's up? What's the situation, just to figure out what's on the table? And that's what Chris Greer does. So I'm not surprised when you hear Chris Greer is making a call for Patrick Mahomes if he's on the table. Or, I'm curious. It looks like Arizona's having a fire sale right now. And I'm curious what can possibly be had over there with the Cardinals that could help Miami. Do you have a backup center? Do you have a backup guard that might interest the Dolphins, since you seem to be having a fire sale over there with the Cardinals? So, and I'm pretty sure, seeing all the movement, Chris Greer is on the phone right now today to the Arizona Cardinals organization.
Yeah, no, and for those not aware, what we're talking about is today they traded both linebacker DB Isaiah Simmons, former first-round pick, to the New York Giants for like a 7th-round pick.
Yes.
And as I tweeted out, or X'd, whatever you want to call it, I had a major man crush on the dude coming into the 2020 draft. I thought he'd be like a phenomenal piece, a guy you can do a lot of things with. Anyway, and they also traded tackle Josh Jones, who was like a 3rd or 4th round pick a couple of years ago, I should say, to the Houston Texans. So I do want to touch on Mike McDaniel's comments, and there's an important point to be made here. When he was asked about the reports of the Dolphins making an offer to Jonathan Taylor, which he kind of started his answer by basically mocking reports, as Omar's doing with the air quotes, and basically saying that's like his 2.5-year-old daughter putting out reports on Twitter. And then he proceeded to kind of completely dance around the question of his focus being on the guys he's got and all that. And it's not fair to
his focus is on the training camp. It's not the guys he's got. His focus is on training camp. If you would have said, I like the backs that I have in my room, I'm comfortable where we are for the season, story dead, right? No, not really, but
no. The only way the story dead would be, well, first of all, the story would be dead if they hadn't made a trade offer. For him to kill the story, for Chris Greer to kill the story, is we are not going to make a trade for a running back. Basically, Nick Saban, I'm not going to be the Alabama coach, and then force him to lie if he's actually going to be the Alabama coach. But the point I'm trying to make is that what Mike McDaniel says, I hope that no fan looks at that and goes, well, there you go. See, he shot it down. He made fun of reports. Yeah, but he didn't shoot it down. He kind of tap danced around it the way you'd expect him to. And then Chris Greer, I don't know how long ago it was, said, we're happy with our running backs right now. I mean, the right now is some kind of magical, wordplay right there. Because, we're not making a trade right now. Okay, how about next week? So understand what coaches and execs say publicly, that there are things that they have to say. Because, for example, if you say, yeah, we're exploring a trade, we'd like to upgrade a running back, and then nothing pans out, and then, oh, hi, Raheem, hi, Jeff Wilson Jr., hi, Miles, then you got to go back to your running back room. It's one thing for them to hear reports. It's another thing for a coach or GM to publicly put that out there.
I don't even think it's that, because even the backs have said, we understand this is a business, and we understand that, teams do what they think is in their best interest, and this, without a doubt, is in Miami's best interest. If you have and let me explain for those who haven't paid attention to the other podcasts, and I strongly recommend it. We've got podcast episode number 50 that addresses the Jonathan Taylor trade talk.
The Olivier Burton episode. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. This Dolphins team, despite what fans want to think, the way the roster is constructed, the way the salary is constructed, you have a 2-year window to win a Super Bowl. And after that 2-year window, you will be blowing this thing up. And when I say blowing it up, is major pieces have to say goodbye. And you won't be the same caliber of team. Not to say that you're going to be a super great team in 2024, but you do not have the talent, back-end talent on your roster for guys to elevate themselves and take that next step and replace guys. Like, who's replacing Jerome Baker, which you plan to cut next year? Who? Name him. There is nobody. Maybe Aubrey Miller. So you have to have a realistic look at your team and your roster and your salary structure, and you have a 2-year window. So if you do have a 2-year window, you better deliver on that 2-year window and be in contention for the Super Bowl. Chris Greer would be the biggest dummy if he looked at this roster and said, yeah, this is a Super Bowl team right now. Like, I'm sorry, you can't look at that roster and say that they are a Super Bowl team because there's so many holes. I remember covering a team, and I've shared this on the podcast before. I was super excited for the 2017 season. It was a return of Ryan Tannehill, who I didn't really have that great of a high opinion of, but they had won 10 games and gone to the playoffs with scraps on the roster. The unicorns were there. Jay Ajayi was a great running back for one season. And I was like, man, this team is going to turn up the volume. Yeah. And I remember I had said it on radio, written columns about it. I was excited for the season. And Chris Greer found me one day and was like, yo, slow down on that. Slow your roll. This roster's got a lot of holes on it. And I really didn't know what he meant until I really took a really good look at the depth on the roster, and they were paper thin, like they are now.
Well, yeah, but they have some. Here's the thing: I'm going to stop you here.
And then they lost Cutler. I mean, then they lost Tannehill.
They brought in Jay. Don't care. But here's the thing.
That guy really didn't care.
No. But their high-end talent to me is much, much, much better now than it was back then.
Absolutely.
Here's where I'm going to do. You're supposed to be positive today about this week, by the way.
Where was I positive? By telling you about the Capocalypse?
Or that, and then you're talking about also like how paper thin they are. And this is where I'm going to go glass half full guy, where there are holes on the roster. I completely agree with you. I don't dismiss like the idea of like them winning a Super Bowl as they're constructed right now, except everything has to go right. And that includes like incredible luck with injuries from here on out. And then guys stepping up their game or maintaining their level. So many things have to go right, more so than other teams. That's where I would put the nuance there. But
you have to have a perfect season and the ball has to bounce absolutely perfectly. You're absolutely right.
Correct. And so again, considering the fact that you're absolutely right, that they have a couple of 2-year window, go for it. And this is why, if you're going to go for it, Jonathan Taylor is going for it.
Only thing that concerns me is his health issues and health risk and health concern. But he's 24. And right now, I think a lot of his health is pay me. And then I'll be really healthy.
Got a bruised wallet right now.
As do most running backs.
No, but here's the thing. In fairness, even though he is 4 years younger than Dalvin Cook, in fairness, he's an old 24 in terms of workload because he carried the ball a lot at Wisconsin and in his first 3 years in the NFL. So if you want to argue against the trade because of that, it's a fair argument. Do we even need to bother with Mike McDaniel's response and the comments about Tua's offseason work?
No, we got to address it because we also have to address the fact that Ryan Clark, ESPN analyst, pivot creator, he apologized. He took the high road in a long diatribe speech. He said, I wanted to respect the players and the game, and me trying to be funny, I didn't respect. And that's the bottom line. If stories hadn't been written that talked about and detailed, including Marcel's ESPN piece about the Tua transformation and body, and about Tua's tattoo, how did you not know about the work that he had put together to get, to gain muscle? And yes, that includes weight. Muscle weighs more than fat for those, who don't know. And so, yeah, Tua's 10 pounds thicker. And off the rip, Tua's already thick, and he's been thick. So that's just his body. So yeah, he looks thicker. Okay. But that doesn't mean he's fat or hasn't been training or hasn't been eating the right things. And that's the problem with what Ryan Clark said. So I'm glad that he did apologize. But McDaniel came to Tua's defense and basically said he's been one of the top 5 guys on the team in regards to weight and strength gains.
Yep. I would think Austin Jackson would be another one of those, to be honest with you, also based on what I've observed.
Yes.
of the
And Raekwon Davis, man, that guy, he might be 325. I mean, I know he practiced today and looked like he lost 10 pounds in practice.
Don't ask him about his weight, though. I don't think
Yeah. We
doesn't care for that very much.
Every time we ask him about it, and Mark asked about his weight again today. He's there we go again. He for you guys who don't know, Raekwon Davis does not like to talk about his weight and doesn't like to be asked about his weight. So please do not ask him about his weight.
And he was never, even when he was listed at 340, he was never like flabby or anything like that. He's just a big dude.
He's a huge human being. Yeah.
That's a large and in charge. My only thing with Ryan Clark was I think he was trying so badly to get to the Onyx big butt joke that on his way to get there, he didn't really weigh the consequences or the impact of what he was saying about, see to it and didn't work out, didn't listen to his nutritionist and all that. And then the one thing in his apology, and I props to him for doing that, but I hate the old, if it offended you.
Ooh, you like my wife.
It's like, then it's one, it's like, okay, it's basically, I'll apologize if I have to. No, it was offensive to suggest that a professional quarterback
did not take his offseason seriously.
Correct.
Yes. So, and Ryan Clark, you played with the fattest quarterback in the NFL during your entire career. It's true. Did you say anything about Big Ben not being thick but being fat his whole career? No.
That's a good point.
But it's a big move to step up and apologize.
Sure, no. Again, props for apologizing. I agree.
Yeah, he wore his pivot shirt on it too. You always got to mark it. You gotta stay in that marketing lane.
While I'm
next we're gonna have I said what I said shirts. Yeah.
I said what I said, or we said what we said, since the two of us. Oh, interesting, right? Something to ponder. So what else did we saw practice? I saw again some good edge work from the likes of Bradley Chubb.
And some bad offensive line play from Kendall Lamb for the second straight day.
We should have done it the other way around, where you would have pointed out the positive of the.
My bad. No, but I bigged up Kendall Lamb a lot for the last month. Have I not?
That's positive. Okay, but tell you what, let's do a quick take two on this particular topic. Go ahead. Let's talk about the pass rush. Go ahead. Positive, Omar.
Pass rush was forceful. Bradley Chubb is rushing like a demon, a man out of control. He's clearly in the mode of I'm getting ready for the regular season, and that's a Kendall Lamb problem.
Which I will take, because you're not being negative. So
there you go.
Kendall Lamb, who was very, very impressive at left tackle for most of training camp. Let's just say he has not had a good week. Hopefully the starters do play against Jacksonville, or at least Kendall Lamb plays and really balls out against the Jacksonville starters. I don't know if it's Josh Allen who's going to go up against them. Jacksonville, Josh Allen, not the big quarterback.
Yes, yeah.
Well, just in case. I mean, I gotta be straight here. But right now, because the possibility does exist that he's your starter at left tackle in week 1 against the Chargers, because while we're completely happy that the injury to Teron Armstead is not serious, we don't know exactly what his status is for week 1. We might not know until the morning of September 10th, to be very honest.
I think we will know, because Teron Armstead can't not do anything and then show up on Sunday on game day and play. So we'll know based on.
You want to bet on that?
You think he can?
Absolutely, I think he can. He's done it before.
I mean, for the season, though.
No, but I could see him, for example, like practice a day next week, maybe a day of the regular season opener, and he's going to be listed as questionable on
walkthroughs. So you think there's a 2 practice and a walkthrough, and he's ready?
Wouldn't surprise. I wouldn't put it past him. We had a situation like that last year quite a bit, where he wasn't doing a whole lot of work, if any, during the week. He'd be listed as questionable, and then on Sunday morning we'd find out he's playing. So, but if he doesn't play, it's going to be Kendall Lamb more than likely, and it would be nice for him to have like a really nice statement game against Jacksonville. Bradley Chubb wasn't the only one who was very good in pass rush. Andrew Van Ginkel, again, you noticed him. Malik Reed, who's a guy who has really
burned it up lately.
Burned it up lately. So I think early on, maybe I was like, not a great.
Yeah, I was like that too. I was like, I don't know. Mitchell Agude. I like this week because guys, it's like the guys who can sense they're that close to making a 53 or they're really on the verge of being cut. You see them start to turn the volume up a little bit on their play. Mitchell Agude was out there hustling today. And, I tell you, young man, go hustle on special teams. You might have a chance. And go play well against Jacksonville. I've seen teams claim worse players from the Miami Dolphins. I can tell you that. So, you never know, especially a lot of teams are watching. But as I continue to say, and I stand on this, and we've been meaning to fight about this on this podcast for days now. There isn't a single player on the Dolphins roster I worry about cutting that being claimed. I worry about being claimed if I cut them. Not one. And you say there are. Name the players.
No, that's not what I said. What my argument to you was, you said on this podcast more than once, you want to pick up a bunch of waiver claims from other teams.
I do.
And my point to you was that then you're saying that other players, other teams, bottom players who get cut are better than the Dolphins players who get cut.
Yes. I want to explore some practice squad, some players some Mitchell Agudes that you think you could stash on your practice squad, some Aubrey Millers, some Tanner Connors, the guys that you say, nobody's going to claim them. I want to be that team that claims them.
Okay. So then Mitchell Agude is a guy I wouldn't want to expose to waivers because there's something there. He might not be ready right now.
He might not be ready right now, but I'm not worried about what he's going to become. And he's not going to become a Zach Sealer in the next 5 years, is he? That's the guy.
Why are you thinking that who you're picking up from another team on waivers is going to become?
I just need to see. I think your bottom end of your roster is not very good, and I need you to do. I'm not talking about just doing it 1 week. I'm poaching and claiming guys all season long. I have 50 players on my roster and 3 tryout spots that I'm going to be poaching and claiming and signing guys in all season for the hope that I find a Zach Sealer.
Who is
just one.
Okay, and that's one guy out of, and you know what? Just for creps and giggles, I might actually take an hour, 2 hours that it's going to take me and go back, let's say 10 years at all the waiver claims the Dolphins have made, and see if I can come up with anybody other than Zach Sealer who became a major contributor.
I know the list. Eric Walden, the little Dallas for Armstead, something Armstrong.
No, but that's past 10 years. That's past the statute of limitations. Last 10 years.
That's past the statute of limitations.
Last 10 years.
10
waiver
years
pickups. I mean, there's again, no offense, there's usually a reason they get cut. So if they weren't good enough on the team,
I mean, yeah.
Ooh.
But you don't know if Lynn Bowden, he traded for him. But that's the level of talent that we're talking about. Somebody's trash is your treasure. Yeah,
right. But then, I think. Okay, and Lynn Bowden, who looked promising actually as a rookie in 2020, who then you cut after he was on IR all of 2021. Then you cut and then went to New England, couldn't make a mark there. They let him go. Now he's with the Saints. Is that going to pan out? Who knows? But this is a guy. Again, there's a reason they get cut.
There's talent there. It's, can you connect with that talent in the coaching staff? Can they learn your scheme? You telling me that Mike McDaniel shouldn't be out there targeting some 49ers waivers? Like, are you kidding me? Please, they know your offense.
But why why, if they're so promising and have such potential, why did the 49ers let him go? Unless you're dealing with a team that's completely stacked at the position.
You're playing you're playing the numbers. You telling me something from the Eagles can't help you? Answer that question. I'm not saying who it is. You tell me something from the Eagles at their defensive line where they seem stacked, or their linebacker unit that can't help you?
You know who they just re-signed? The Eagles, who they're probably going to waive. You want to tell me you want to bring him back in? Marvin Wilson. Which reminds me, if I'm talking about Marvin.
Oh my God! What? No,
Marvin Wilson is one of the 4 defensive tackles the Dolphins worked out about a month ago when they signed Deshaun Hand, who, by the way, just missed a second practice. I forgot to mention him earlier.
I hear he's going to make the 53. I hear Vic Fangio likes him a lot.
Except he's missed 2 days. Here's the thing with Deshaun Hand: has shown potential all the time. He was a 4th-round pick of the Lions. I talked to
Can't
my
stay
guy in
healthy.
Detroit. Can't stay healthy. And right now, guess what? He's on the sideline. He's got a sleeve around his right knee. They pulled him off the field to go work with the trainer yesterday. We sure he's going to be in the 53?
For the initial 53, I mean, I didn't say I'm going to keep him all year. I'm not,
Okay. Maybe.
I mean, you got tougher decisions to make on this team. Like, to me, the receiver's a tough decision. What you do at running back's a tough decision, especially if you add Jonathan Taylor. Deshaun Hand. I think your decisions are Deshaun Hand or Brandon Peely. I'm as tempted as I am to keep Brandon Peely on my 53. I'm thinking that another team is not going to claim him. So maybe he makes my initial 53 and I cut a Deshaun Hand, and then I add a Deshaun Hand after I put guys on IR. I'm just thinking out loud here. You hear what I'm saying? You follow me? You catching my drift?
No, I am catching your drift. I just, and I'm with you. If you can go try to get a player who can improve to whatever degree any position, sure. I just caution always against, you get guys at this time of year, generally speaking, just keep the expectations low, because generally, again, there's a reason they're available.
Yeah, but then in some instances, you've got a money situation like Cedric Wilson that forced your hand, or you've got a situation where you got to keep a draft pick like Channing Tindall that forced your hand, and somebody might fall off the wagon. And that doesn't mean that just because he fell off the wagon, he's not a good NFL player. Now, you're right. Waiver wire fines and roster poaches and all that stuff, they don't guarantee you're going to get a good player. But every once in a while, you find a Zach Sealer.
Okay, well, we'll come in a future episode of the All Dolphins podcast, which is one more reason to keep watching us. I will come up with a list. I will go and classify, pick out every single waiver wire the Dolphins have made over the past 10 years, and we'll come up with a list of who has really panned out. On that note, waiver wire. This wasn't a waiver wire, but we should talk about the roster moves the Dolphins made today.
Yes.
They waived injured safety Miles Dorn, waived linebacker Mike Rose, signed linebacker AJ Johnson, who's a 6-year veteran who has plenty of experience with Vic Fangio, played with him in Denver when Fangio was a head coach over there.
Did you give them the background, or are you just gonna?
I did not give him the background. We're running out of time here. I don't have time. Let's just say he's got quite an interesting background.
Colorful.
We'll address it at some point, but right
if
now,
he makes it 53, let's not drudge up the guy's bad stint in life for 3 years right now. But what we will tell you is we thank you and appreciate you for supporting us and watching this podcast. Tell a friend, just tell one friend, share it with them, become a subscriber, because it's important to us. This podcast is doing well. We're looking for sponsorship. So if you're interested in sponsoring podcasts, contact one of us, and like, subscribe, and check out our work on alldolphins.com.
And also, quick note, we're also available where you get your audio podcasts on the Fans First Sports Network under Miami Dolphins Insider. That's going to wrap it up for episode 53. We'll be back for episode 54 on Friday. And not sure we'll talk about just yet, but we'll find something. Omar?